Friday night used to be the most dangerous night of my life. Not because of people, not because of money, but because of what happened in the spiritual realm when most people were sleeping. I know this because I lived on the other side of it. There was a time when I understood how poverty is programmed, how lack is spoken into lives, how destinies are delayed, not by hard work or intelligence, but by words, spoken sometimes by others, sometimes by ourselves, sometimes by spirits that feed on agreement. And tonight, I'm speaking because freedom comes through truth. I want you to listen slowly, not emotionally, not desperately, but with awareness. Because what I'm about to share is not hype. It's not superstition. It's not a magic trick. It's a spiritual law that I saw operate over and over again when I was deep in darkness. We never feared people who prayed loudly. We never feared people who fasted occasionally. We never feared people who shouted many words. But there was one word that disrupted assignments instantly when spoken with understanding, especially on a Friday night. Friday night is not random. It is a spiritual threshold. It marks a transition. It closes cycles. It opens spiritual books. In darkness, Friday night was used to renew covenants of lack, to reinforce cycles of poverty, to seal financial frustration, and to keep families running in circles, working harder, but never advancing. And most people don't know this. They think poverty is only economic. They think it's education. They think it's background. But I watched people with talent remain stuck because of spiritual permission. And permission is always given through words. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman, she worked non-stop, 2 jobs, always tired, always giving, but somehow money leaked from her life. Unexpected expenses, broken things, people draining her, opportunities appearing, then collapsing. In the spiritual realm, her name came up often, not because she was evil, but because she spoke one phrase constantly: I will never have enough. She didn't know she was feeding a system. Words are not just sound, they are agreements. And Friday night is when agreements are reviewed. That's why I'm speaking to you now. Because there is one word that cancels old permissions when spoken deliberately, especially at night, when the spirit is quieter and the soul is more receptive. This word is not long, it's not complicated. Children can say it, poor people can say it, broken people can say it, but when spoken with alignment, it changes spiritual posture. That word is thank you. Not casually, not sarcastically, not as a habit, but thank you spoken as a declaration. In darkness, we hated gratitude because gratitude signals completion. It signals trust. It signals expectation without anxiety. When someone said thank you before seeing results, it confuses systems built on fear. Because poverty feeds on panic, lack feeds on desperation, but provision responds to peace. On Friday nights, when people said thank you with clarity, thank you for provision not yet seen, thank you for bills not yet paid, thank you for doors not yet opened, assignments weakened, not because money fell from the sky, but because authority shifted. Gratitude removes the beggar's posture. And wealth, real wealth, does not flow to beggars, it flows to stewards. I watched people break cycles without knowing how. They didn't suddenly earn more. They didn't win lotteries. But leaks closed, wisdom increased, opportunities stabilized. Because they stopped speaking lack and start speaking completion. Thank you says, I trust the source more than the circumstance. And Friday night is when that trust is registered. This is why complaints feel heavy on Fridays. This is why hopeless thoughts intensify. This is why people feel restless without knowing why. Something is being negotiated. And when you speak thank you, you interrupt the negotiation. I'm not telling you to deny reality. I'm not telling you to ignore bills. I'm telling you to speak from authority, not fear. Say it slowly, say it intentionally. Say it alone if you have to. Thank you for provision. Thank you for wisdom. Thank you that lack no longer controls my decisions. When gratitude becomes a weapon, poverty loses access. And this is only the beginning. Because what happens after you say this word, what shifts? Internally. What doors start responding differently? What patterns quietly break more? People don't even notice until months later. They just say things changed. In the next part of this message, I will explain why this word works, what it seals spiritually, and what you must never say again if you want this shift to remain. But for now, remember this. You don't escape poverty by chasing money. You escape it by changing agreement. And agreement begins with a word. Say it tonight. Say it on Friday night. Say it without fear. Thank you. And watch what starts moving quietly, steadily, permanently. After I left darkness, I spent a long time observing something that disturbed me. People would hear truth. They would feel hope. They would even practice gratitude for a while. And yet, some of them would slowly slip back in the same patterns, same struggle, same pressure, same financial exhaustion. That's when I realized something important. It's not enough to speak the right word once. You must also stop speaking the wrong ones. Because poverty doesn't only respond to what you say intentionally, it responds to what you say habitually. I watched how cycles re-enter lives not through curses spoken by others, but through careless language spoken daily. Phrases like, money never stays with me. I'm always behind. I'm just unlucky. This is how it's always been. These statements may sound harmless. They may even sound honest. But honesty without awareness can still build chains. In the spiritual realm, repetition equals reinforcement. When you say something often enough, it becomes law in your inner world, and your outer world eventually follows. That's why gratitude works so powerfully, it breaks repetition. But here's what most people don't understand. Gratitude is not pretending everything is fine. It is choosing alignment over reaction. When you say thank you, you step out of survival mode. And survival mode is where poverty thrives. I saw this clearly when I began counseling people who were stuck financially. Two people could earn the same income, have the same background, live in the same city. One would grow steadily, the other would constantly struggle. The difference was not effort, it was inner posture. One lived in fear of loss, the other lived in expectation of flow. Fear tightens decisions, expectation opens them. When fear rules, people make short-term choices that sabotage long-term provision. They rush, they grab, they compromise. But where expectation rules, people wait better, choose wiser, say no when needed. Gratitude trains expectation. That's why it must be protected. And this is where Friday night matters again. Friday night is when emotional exhaustion peaks. The week ends, pressure accumulates, regrets surface. It's easy on FRI. Days to replay failures, to rehearse what didn't work, to complain without realizing you're reopening doors. That's why darkness prefers Friday nights. Because tired minds are easier to influence. But when you choose gratitude, on a Friday night especially, when nothing looks solved, you do something radical. You rest before provision arrives, and rest is a statement of trust. In darkness, we knew something most people don't. Rest disrupts systems of control. People who are anxious are predictable. People who are desperate are manipulable. But people who rest in trust cannot be rushed into bad agreements. That's why gratitude must be paired with silence. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to announce anything publicly. You just need to stop narrating lack. Silence after gratitude seals it. I often tell people this quietly. Say, thank you. Then stop talking. Don't follow it with, but I'm worried. Don't follow it with, I hope. Don't follow it with fear-filled planning. Let gratitude be the final word, because final words carry authority. I learned this when I noticed something else. People who broke free from financial cycles stopped over-explaining their situation. They didn't rehearse their struggle to everyone. They didn't keep justifying their lack. They conserved their words. And words are currency. Every time you speak, you spend something. The question is, what are you funding? Fear or faith? Lack or flow? Gratitude funds flow. W. But it also demands discipline, because the mind will try to pull you back into old scripts. That's why you must replace certain phrases permanently. Instead of saying, I can't afford this, say, I'm choosing wisely. Instead of, money is hard, say, provision is aligning. Instead of, I'm stuck, say, I'm learning timing. These are not lies, they are reframes. And reframing breaks patterns. I watched families where one person changed their language and within months, the entire household shifted. Not because of sermons, but because atmosphere changed. Words create atmosphere, and atmosphere determines what can survive. Poverty cannot survive where peace governs. That's why anxiety often increases right before breakthrough, because something is losing access. If you feel resistance when you choose gratitude, good, that means something is being challenged. But don't fight. Just stay consistent. Consistency is louder than intensity. Say thank you when it feels awkward. Say it when nothing makes sense. Say it when you're tempted to complain, especially on Friday nights, because something is listening there. Is a moment after gratitude that most people don't recognize. It's subtle. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't announce itself loudly, but it is the moment when poverty truly begins to lose its grip. That moment is responsibility without pressure. I noticed this pattern again and again. People would begin speaking gratitude. They're in. Our tension would ease. Their thinking would slow down. And then something changed in how they handled what they already had. Not more money, not bigger opportunities, just clear decisions. They stopped wasting emotional energy. They stopped proving themselves. They stopped chasing validation through spending. Because when fear leaves, wisdom enters. This is the part no one glamorizes. Breakthrough often looks boring at first. It looks like saying no to things you used to say yes to. It looks like patience. It looks like planning without panic. In darkness, we relied on chaos. Chaos keeps people dependent. Chaos keeps people reactive. But gratitude creates order. And order attracts provision. This is why some people receive sudden money and still remain poor. Because money does not break poverty, structure does. Poverty is not just an empty wallet, it's a fractured system. Gratitude begins the repair, but stewardship completes it. This is why, after saying thank you, your next responsibility is not action it. Attention. Pay attention to small nudges. Pay attention to discomfort around old habits. Pay attention to invitations that feel rushed. When provision is real, it doesn't push, it flows. Pressure is never divine. Urgency can be healthy, pressure is not. If some demands fear to be accepted, it is not aligned with abundance. I watched people ignore this and sabotage themselves. They felt better internally, but they returned to old patterns externally. Same impulsive decisions, same emotional spending, same avoidance. And then they wondered why nothing changed. Gratitude opens the door, but walking through requires maturity. This is where patience becomes wealth. Real wealth moves slowly and stays. 5. Money excites the ego. Sustainable provision calms the soul. If you've been feeling unusual, calm lately, pay attention. Calm is a sign that fear is losing territory, and fear is the root system of poverty. This is why silence is still important here. Don't announce every plan, don't explain every move. Let results speak. When something shifts spiritually, noise attracts interference. Quiet attracts growth. This is why seeds grow underground. And speaking of seeds, this is another truth most people misunderstand. Giving does not create wealth, wisdom in giving does. Never give from guilt, never give from fear, never give to prove faith. Those are still poverty behaviors. Give when you feel peace, give when you feel clarity, give when it aligns, not when it drains. Gratitude trains discernment, and discernment protects resources. I've seen people break free not because they earned more, but because they stopped leaking. Leaks are often emotional, not financial. Helping when you're empty, spending to feel worthy, say yes to avoid conflict. These are silent drains. As gratitude strengthens, these behaviors lose power. And here's how you know poverty is truly breaking. You stop identifying as someone who struggles. Your language changes naturally. Your posture changes. Your decisions feel lighter. You stop expecting loss. That expectation is everything. Expectation is the womb of experience. What you expect prepares space for. That's why gratitude works, it resets expectation. And Friday nights continue to matter. Not because of superstition, but because reflection happens there. So I encourage you, make Friday night sacred, not stressful. Close the week with gratitude. Release what didn't work. Bless what did. Say thank you. Not as a ritual, but as a declaration of trust. And then rest. Rest is not laziness. Rest is confidence. It says, I am not chased by lack. And when lack can no longer chase you, it must leave. One final truth before I close this message. Wealth is not about how much you accumulate. It's about how free you feel while living. Freedom attracts opportunity that money alone never could. Connections, timing, favor. These respond to inner alignment, and alignment begins with agreement. You changed agreement with one word. You protected it with discipline. You stewarded it with wisdom. Now let it grow. Quietly, consistently, permanently. Say thank you tonight. And don't be surprised if weeks from now, you realize something quietly left your life. Not money problems, not bills, but fear. And when fear leaves, poverty has no place to stay.